Hi, welcome to the Scuttlebutt Podcast. I'm Rich Mellon from Trapping Inc. TV.
And I'm Sandi, and we are once again in the cabin at our Trapline, and our special guest today is Ryan Swart from South Africa. Ryan is the son of Guy Swart, who we go hunting in South Africa with all the time.
Owner of Wild Horizons.
Yep.
I want to just point out that it's July and it's very warm, and we started to do this outside, but the wind got to us.
The wind did get to us,
Yeah.
and we wanted to do it outside because Ryan said he's looking distinctly Canadian, meaning that he's looking rather peaked. And so we wanted to give him a chance to sit in the sun.
he's a little bit afraid that he's...
He's going to go home pale.
Yeah, that's so funny. He says, geez, he says this country, he says now it's only 22 degrees today and about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And he says, it's hot.
Yeah, and I'd usually be wearing a hoodie in that time. Yeah.
You've acclimatized very well.
Yeah, I know.
But you've been here since March,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, not here, but been in Canada
In
since
Canada,
March.
yeah.
Lived over on the island, on Vancouver Island,
That's
for
right.
a
Yeah.
bit of time with some friends of ours.
Yeah,
Looked after their place while they came to Africa with us.
yeah.
So it's been kind of a little bit of this.
Yeah.
So it's been fun.
Well, what we did, this is wood weekend. This is wood weekend at the cabin. So we put up our wood for the winter. And we did 3-4 cords of wood.
Yeah.
Cut and hauled yesterday, split most of it yesterday, split the rest of it today. It's a new experience for you.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Because most of the wood used in South Africa is for a braai or a barbecue.
So it's cooking fuel, yeah.
Yeah. And very little heating goes on there, like inside of a building.
Yeah, that's right, especially with wood fires, yeah.
Yeah.
Very little, yeah.
So the chainsaw
Only
was...
when the Canadians come to town is there
Yeah.
wood inside for heating.
Yeah, Sandi was holding wood inside the building constantly in Africa, yeah.
Very good at it.
So the chainsaw was a whole new experience?
For me it was, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Much easier than a machete.
Yeah.
And much easier than an axe, for sure. Yeah.
They're a little terrifying, aren't they?
They can be, yeah.
They make a lot of noise, and to begin with, you're scared of everything that's going on. I know. I'm quite used to the level of saw we use now, but whenever I pick up a professional a speed saw or something,
Right.
those things are hitting like 11,000, 15,000 RPM, and they are frightening. You know, you just scares the hell out of you. What happens if there was a kickback or whatever, right? So I can imagine the first time of holding one in your hands, which was yesterday.
Yeah, I think the scary thing is how comfortable you become with them so quickly.
Yeah.
You just got to keep watching that blade, dancing around it, yeah.
Well, and like I said, I'm the worst one to show you because I've been doing it for...
A long time.
Yeah. I'm counting here. I bet you I've been running a chainsaw for 45, 48 years.
Goodness.
Yeah, so I have a lot of bad habits.
Yeah.
You don't want to learn those bad habits, but it is a heck of a tool.
Yeah.
Like you get a lot of work done in
It
it.
makes work easy, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. And what about the wood splitter?
Wood split is impressive, I must say. It goes through that wood like nothing, and to do that all with an axe would just take so long.
Oh,
Yeah.
even we did the final. There's a stump about like this. That was on the biggest one I took, and there was no knots or anything down there, right? That's all clean, straight grain. But you think it is, but tough.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, it was. But we went literally. You helped me, or I helped you, or whatever. But because it was so big to wrestle it around on top of that splitter, we went from the first split to taking a picture with it all piled again back on the wood splitter in 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was about 2 minutes worth of splitting. It's just amazing how fast it was and the way it makes up the work.
Yeah.
Slick. Very slick.
And you do it this time of the year. It gives it another 3 months. 3 months of curing and drying.
It's probably generous. I'm pretty sure we're going to be heating before the end of October.
Okay. But what we've got out here is pine beetle kill. It's beetle killed pine wood, and what that is Alberta now has pine beetles in it, and they attack the pine. And what happened was they blew over the mountains during one freak storm, the way things usually happen. Kind of like how Florida ended up with pythons. It was a freak storm that blew them north out of the Caribbean.
Okay.
Okay, well, we ended up with pine beetles, and they got
Rabbit holes.
yeah, and they got pythons.
Yeah.
But we end up with this, and it kills the pine. It doesn't produce, like, it's not great wood, but it does stay standing for a while. Then once you split it, it cures up and becomes really good wood.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the beetle that kills the pine. Eh?
No.
It introduces a fungus.
Well, I'm not sure
allows
whether
a fungus
I'm not
to
sure
come
whether it introduces a fungus or its penetration allows the fungus. I'm not sure how it works, but you can see there's a blue ring on the wood, and that's the
Yeah.
fungus that actually kills
And
the
that's
tree.
what kills the tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if they fall down, then and they've been there for any length of time, they're not worth anything.
No.
But if you can get them still standing, then yeah, or shortly after they fall.
Yeah. Well, what happens? I mean, this pine trees around here grow in the sand, on the sand ridge. You notice that, and where you have sand, you have ants.
Yeah.
And so that's what gets them, is the ants start into this dead wood, because right where it's funny, but right where the ground and the wood come together, it's always wet or has the most moisture, and that's what the ants like, is the wetter wood, even though it has to be dead. And they get in there, and then along comes a windstorm, and they all start to blow over and topple over.
Yeah.
But we
And
did
there's a lot that have killed up there over the winter. Like, we haven't been up there since last year to
Yep.
really get any wood. So this year we noticed a lot of the trees have that characteristic red needles
Yeah.
on them now, which
Yeah.
means that they're dead or dying. So
It's one of the difficulties of the whole pine beetle situation, is that the trees are very, very dead by the time you know it.
Yeah.
Because the needles turn red.
yeah,
While the beetles have been in there, have come back out and hatched and flown again.
Yeah.
And we don't
They
even
are
know.
long gone.
And we don't even know that the trees are dead, right?
yeah,
So one of the things that's been going on is the forestry, and that has been cutting those trees and burning them, which is kind of like closing the gate after the horse is out, right?
yeah.
It just doesn't make
But
any sense.
however, it is fuel for forest fires too, if
Oh.
because it's so
If they're left standing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just come back from South Africa.
right.
We just spent a month there on our third trip to South Africa, and we went hunting with Ryan's dad.
Yeah.
Ryan here is a PH.
Yeah, by trade. Yeah.
By trade, yeah.
Now,
So finished high school, and that's a story. But PH school
Yeah.
is
PH stands for professional hunter.
Yeah.
correct. So that's no small effort, right?
Well, it's the school that you go to is pretty much a finishing school for
Right.
what you've done. So you already know the field pretty well by the time you get to the school, and it's just 12 days of hard graft, hard work, and by the end of it, you are a professional hunter if you pass all the tests.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many tests are there?
There's 2 final exams, so it's a theory exam on everything that you learned, and then a
Right.
legal exam, so you know all the laws of hunting in the country.
Right.
And then obviously we do shooting and gun competency on the range as well.
And is there a skinning component to it
Yeah,
as well?
so we do a practical day. So on the practical day, you actually go out and shoot an animal and bring it back and skin it for a full
I
mount.
never went to school like that.
Yeah, make it
What a shame.
all taxidermy ready. And,
Yeah.
that's our practical day.
Yeah, and so Des, who works with your dad, and with Clint
Yeah.
Gower, who also works with your dad, he also went to professional hunting school
That's
with
right.
you.
Yeah, him and I buddied up.
Yeah.
So when you go to the school, you buddy up. You always have a partner.
Oh, okay.
And Des and I were partners. Yeah.
And Des is, well, we've hunted with Des before,
Yes.
4 years ago
Yeah.
when we were in South Africa, and then again this year. And really, he's just an outstanding. Well, he was a tracker 4 years ago, but he's outstanding in terms of his competency, his
Yeah.
knowledge
Yeah.
of animals.
In the field,
and
he's
his-
great. Yeah.
And just a really, really nice person.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
That's one of the things, though. PHs, professional hunters. Well, over here in Canada, they'd be guides or outfitters, and the difference is you guys have to be competent on so many levels. Like, I mean, you're entertainment, and you're a cook, and you are everything out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, and I don't know. The neat part was how good you guys are at the entertainment part, like just to sit there and visit and that and
Yeah,
talk.
yeah,
You'd think you'd run out of things to talk about after a while, but
yeah. And spending that amount of time with one person,
Or
I mean,
group of people, I
yeah,
suppose.
you would
too,
think
right?
that your topics run dry, but they don't. Remember, we were talking about it the other day.
yeah.
How a PH is a stand-up comedian and a historian and a biologist and a botanist and all kinds of things, and they have to know their vehicle mechanics and everything about rifles and the field. And it's more than just a professional hunter. You have to be pretty qualified in more than one field.
Well, you're in the field all the time too,
Yeah.
right? Like there was a different hunting concession that we were on, Mandalay, and we'd never been there, and that it's relatively new from But when you talk to Clint or to Ian or Sean or any of them that have been there, they know exactly
Yeah.
where, and then we just come up over this little rise and there's a dam over here and there's something, and
Yeah.
it's just really knowing the terrain and where the animals are going to be. And, it's
And they're
really
vast areas. They're
yeah, they are. They're
vast.
not small. Like we're talking thousands of hectares,
Yeah. And there's 2.4 hectares to the acre.
Yeah.
something
No.
like that. 2.2, I think.
2.2 acres to the hectare. Pardon me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hectare is much larger. What I think is so neat about your dad's operation and the philosophy you guys have is that these are all wild animals. They're all breeding and carrying on
Naturally,
Naturally,
yeah.
a lot of cases these are working farm sheep and goat
And cattle.
and cattle farms.
Yeah.
And so the wild animals are just there, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're just vast areas. Like, I mean, how big is that? The valley that Mandalay is in?
It's 6,500 hectares, so that's about 12 or 1,300 acres.
1,000.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,000 acres.
But I mean,
yeah.
it's got to be. How long is it? Like that road through Mandalay?
I wouldn't even know. It's long. It's
Yeah.
a big valley.
And
Yeah,
it's
a big
not
valley.
it's not really like in some places, not really a road.
Well,
It's more
we
of a
wouldn't
track.
consider most of it a road.
It's just a direction.
Yeah.
Would I be wrong to say it's 14, 15 miles long?
Probably somewhere
And,
there. Yeah.
and from top of mountain to top of mountain.
Oh, you can
Oh,
add
you
more.
could add, probably that distance again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a huge area. Well, like if it's 12 miles by 12 miles, that's our Trapline.
Yeah.
144 square miles. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But it's one of the curious things about South Africa is the fact that they only measure distance on a flat. So when you go up and down these mountains and that, you actually have far greater amount of land.
Yeah, so it would be, if we're talking about 6,500 hectares, that's mountaintop to mountaintop. It's
Yeah,
not
that's-
not taking the relief of the land into consideration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd never been to Mandalay before. We'd never been to Kirby. We'd never been to a bunch of them, and they're all great, big, huge areas.
Yeah.
The animals, are fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, part of our trip was we went first to Vic Falls. And
Well, we tried to combine a little bit of tourism in with our trip. So our friends who met us there, we all met in Johannesburg, and we just landed. They'd been hunting for a few days already, and we went up to Victoria Falls. It was just a spectacular visit up there. It was short, but
there's not a lot to do in
well,
Vic
beyond
Falls.
the falls,
Yeah.
there's a few other things to do. but-
Crocodile Farm's a good time.
Yes, anyone going to Victoria Falls needs to go to the crocodile farm and hold a crocodile. I was too scared to do it. Now I regret it. So,
But you were the first one to feed crocodile.
Yeah,
Oh
well.
my God. At the end, you go over their breeding pen, and some of them there, the male is 55 years old. It's hard to think of that, right? And he's their major breeder, and these are huge, like 700-800 pounds, like just a giant crocodile. And there's this bridge over top of this water, and the guy starts whistling, and all these crocodiles start stirring, and they go into the water. Well, then they have this pole, and on it is a cord, and there's a piece of wire at the end, and they harvest the crocodiles there at 2.5 to 4 years old
for
and it's
meat and for skin.
for meat and for skin, yeah.
Yeah.
And which is the best eating and the best skin because the skin hasn't been scarred or anything else. It's really really interesting. I love this stuff. I do. And so anyway, he gets some chunks of crocodile tail and you hold him over the side and it's like jigging for crocodiles. So here you go, jigging for crocodiles, and he shows us how to do it. He says, "You can pull it out of the way," and they jump up after, right? So he says, "So let's try that." And he says, "I will." So off she goes, and I've got this all on film, but she goes over there and she's jigging it like that. Well, the big old male comes, and he comes up and he jumps, and I bet you he gets more than half of his body out of the water, and those jaws go, and it's like the clap of doom.
Yep.
You cannot imagine that. Whoomp. And you shrieked.
Nope, you can't imagine it until you're there.
You shrieked like a
Guarantee.
girl.
I did. Just a wee bit. I think everybody else in the group kind of shrieked like girls too. And there was only two of us.
It was funny as heck.
It was funny. But Victoria Falls, very historic. What do they call it? The smoke that thunders? That's what the indigenous people call it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually went on a cruise. You can cruise above Vic Falls on the river.
On the Zambezi River.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I made sure that they had an anchor on board. We're just on a pontoon boat, and you get within about 800 meters of the top of the falls.
And you just don't want to be swimming from there.
No.
Because the river is loaded with crocodiles and
And
hippos.
hippos, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you manage to get to the falls,
Yeah. It might be the best part of your day.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know what I couldn't get over, and you probably you knew this, was that a hippo doesn't swim. It actually runs along
Runs
the
on the
bottom.
bottom, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got lots of well, we didn't take the video camera on the Zambezi, did we?
I did a little bit about. I just used the Canon or the Nikon, the big Nikon there.
Oh yes, right.
But
yeah.
we got all kinds of, where a hippo rises up right beside you and looks at you. And that
Shake
kind of
his
stuff.
little ears at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, they look harmless. I don't think I'd want to get that close to them to find out, but they're quite dangerous.
It
are
kills
they not?
more animal. It kills more people in Africa than all other dangerous game combined.
Is that
In a
right?
year, yeah.
And they're
And
not
is it
even
considered
dangerous
one of
game,
the-
are they? They're not one of the big five, are they?
It's not one of the 5, but it's considered dangerous game.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, it's not something that we've ever wanted to hunt, but they're really cool to see them up close. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we saw them out of the water because the next stage of our trip then was when we flew. So we spent a couple of days in Victoria Falls, and then we flew back to Johannesburg, where one of the other PHs, Ian
Yes.
Klopper, met us with a van. This is funny. Most of the vehicles in South Africa are standard transmissions, and Ian is not really good at an automatic transmission. So he was grateful to have arrived early in the day, got the van, and cruised around the parking garage, trying to make sure that he knew how to drive an automatic. And even at that, it was a little suspect when we were in the park.
Oh, the brakes were bad. Yeah. Yeah, that was funny.
Anyway, so Ian met us in Johannesburg. Terry and Anna, who were traveling with us, and Richard and I, and then we drove to Nielspruit, and we picked up your Aunt Liz.
Yeah.
Yeah, guy arranged this. He arranged this whole trip. Yeah.
And that's a really cool thing, because Wild Horizon doesn't just cater to hunters; they cater to whoever wants to come to South Africa and experience whatever.
Yep.
And he also arranged our trip to Victoria Falls as well while we in country. So it was really cool. But your Aunt Liz and her husband, they spend a bit of time in Kruger National Park.
A lot of time.
Yeah, because they're not very far away. Nielsprut is not very far away from Kruger National Park.
Couple-hour drive.
Right.
Yeah.
So she joined us and was tour guide for us, and we really had a fun time up there.
Oh man, I mean the animals that you see.
And all in natural habitat, and it's perimeter fenced only. But how big is that park? It's enormous.
Yeah, I don't even know how big it is.
It's-
But it is huge.
I thought I read once that it's larger than France or something like that.
It could be.
It's huge.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
That can't be right. Yeah, that can't be right. But
And-
it's
all the predators are self-fed, and it's just
Yes.
it's an ecosystem on its own.
Yeah.
The whole park, yeah.
And we saw some of that self-feeding.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Well, Pride of Lions had killed a
A Cape Buffalo.
A Cape
cow.
buffalo.
Cow, yeah.
and
Yeah.
well, we think it was a cow.
I could tell it was a cow.
You could not get out of. You can't get out of your vehicle other than designated spots.
Yeah.
Which is for your safety as well as the animal's safety, I suppose. But anyway, there was a traffic jam around where and they were kind enough to kill it not very far from the road.
Yep.
So there was a lot of people and it wasn't that busy. It was just before school break,
Yeah.
so it wasn't that busy in the park relatively.
So one of those places where we were allowed to get out of the
Yes.
vehicle was in the picnic areas, and then it's really cool. They have this. You can rent a braai. What's it called?
Well,
Scootle braai.
Skottel.
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 That was close. That was close.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Scoodle, scottle,
Yeah, well,
whatever.
There you go. There's my Afrikaans. That's me speaking Afrikaans.
Nope, it isn't.
So
Anyway, it's kind of like a briquette. It's for briquettes. It would be like a hibachi here in North America. We stopped there and I don't know. It's like $3 or something to rent one of those wherever you're
Yeah.
at, and we set up the table.
Well, Liz caters like she,
like we
it-
were all
like it's a
starving.
banquet,
Yeah, like we were
and-
starving waifs
yeah.
or something.
yeah.
When we weren't paying attention, there's all of us around this table. Like there's
6 of us.
6 of us around this table, and all of a sudden somebody starts to yell. And we turn around. Here comes a monkey. Blue-balled monkeys are very, and yes, they do have blue balls.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, actually. And that's the head man that's got the fluorescent blue balls. And
Yeah.
it's like, God, that's a tough. They say the crown weighs heavy. I don't know. Having blue balls is worse than the crown. Anyway.
However, you digress.
I do digress. And we turn around, and here comes the monkey, and he gets up on the table, and you have one of those cello packs of
Cherry tomatoes.
cherry tomatoes, and he grabs the whole thing. It's never been opened, and he's gone, right? And up,
And they're so quick.
yeah, they're quick.
Yeah.
yeah, and he takes off and up the giant fig tree he goes.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you see all these other monkeys up the giant fig tree. They go. 4 minutes later, there's all these monkeys coming around. They're all chattering at us. They've all got a cherry tomato in one
At
in each hand,
least one.
and one in their mouth. Right? It's
Yeah.
like they got it open and they were eating.
It didn't take them long. No, but then we had bushbuck. We
Yeah.
had a female bushbuck and a little fawn. Were right next to our picnic table, and a
Well, you had an elephant in the camp, didn't you?
and a jackal though
Yeah.
came through camp.
No, hyena.
Oh, a hyena.
Hyena. Yeah. Much worse than a jackal. Yeah, we've seen a lot of hyenas.
Yeah, the
there.
hyena just walked right through the park, and we saw lots of them after that. But then we stayed in a camp where I can't. How many sleeping huts were there? I think there was 4 or 5.
4 or 5, yeah.
And each one
There was a dining hut and a cooking hut.
Yep. And so we had the whole camp to ourselves.
Yeah.
But Richard got up the
Well, it was
first
really
morning
funny.
that we
The
were there.
very first night we were there, and we're all sitting around the braai. We're getting cooking, and something starts dying loudly and horrifically outside the gate, and like really bad, really bad. Everybody's looking around, and of course, if you're in Kruger Park, so you don't have a gun with you or anything, and it's like, gosh, I kind of wish I had a gun with me. And I said, there's a fence around everything. It's all okay. So the next morning, I get up first. I walk out the back door. It's like, ooh, there's an elephant right there. And I'm thinking,
a big elephant.
a big bull
Big
elephant.
bull.
Big bull
And he's
elephant.
tearing trees apart and he's eating them. And he's this eye about this big looking at me. And then, it must be just the fence must be right there. Although I don't remember. And I walk over and he walks across the road. He's inside the camp.
Yeah.
He's inside the camp. She comes out and she says, what's going on? I says, look at that guy. Whoa! He looks at us and he ambles off, goes out. He broke in. I don't know whether he broke in the night before or that morning.
The
But
fence was breached.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that is it's a magnificent experience to be there
and
because
for
you're
as
so
much
close.
as all the cool animals that we saw, like the elephants and
Giraffe.
the Cape buffalo, the giraffe, the lions, the hyena, and all that, the birds were the cool part.
Yeah, they
it's
were.
really pretty birds in that part of the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it wasn't even the pretty ones that like the giant hornbill was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Cory bustards.
Those are cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They,
And what's the one that's fluorescent when it flies? It's a smaller bird.
Oh,
It's
the
probably
roller.
a roller, lilac-breasted
Yes,
roller.
the lilac-breasted
Well, there's
roller.
lots of different rollers and bee eaters there.
Yeah.
And then lots of raptors too, which
Yeah.
is really cool. You have
Yeah.
the
What
big
was-
eagles, and
Yeah, we saw fish eagle and we saw another eagle. What was the other eagle?
I know you saw Batelier eagle. That was one of them.
Yes.
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 You probably saw tawny eagles and marshall eagles. The marshall's got a white chest with brown spots on, and it's one of the big ones. You
Okay.
generally
Yeah.
see it when you're there. Yeah.
And the secretary bird.
Yeah,
Did we see
secretary.
that one too?
Dogs, you're hitting the camera. Go lay down. Bed.
Get on your beds.
You're
you
banging
guys.
it.
Yeah.
His tail's wagging and I'm watching the camera go.
Yeah. Well, the secretary's a terrestrial eagle. That's the one that stomps its feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kills
yes,
snakes by
Yes.
stomping on their heads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It kills all kinds of things. It's known for killing snakes, but
Yeah.
kills mice and snakes
Wow.
and that kind of
So
thing.
so anyway, we spent a couple of days there too.
Yeah. Couple nights.
A couple of nights,
Yep.
and then we drove back to
Joburg.
to Johannesburg, and we got on a plane and flew to East London, which is not far from where your folks live in
Yeah.
Sinsa. So then we spent a night in Sinsa, and then we headed up to Mandalay.
Yeah.
Spent several days up there. Had
Oh, we had
lots of
some.
fun.
You're going to see some TV programs about what we did there.
Yeah.
We're starting a second TV series, but you shot an incredible Aoudad. Mm-hmm. You shot a spectacular kudu.
Really nice kudu bull.
Oh yeah. He very old. He had huge white ivory tips.
Yeah, really long, and that was about 4 days.
4 days
to-
up for
You
him
had to
alone.
ride for him, eh?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's really dense bush there
Mm-hmm.
where they were, and I put my hip out while we were doing that, and it
That's
just,
an age thing, you know.
No, it's not. No, you just better be careful.
I got a witness here. You can't bury me. I got a witness.
I have a long memory. Anyway, about 4 days for that, and then after we were done that, we drove up to the Kalahari.
Yes, we went back to the Kalahari.
Yeah, and it just in a different location from where we were 4 years ago.
We ended up being like right on the Botswana border. Like,
Yes.
There was a couple
was
times my cell phone says, "Welcome to Botswana."
And I'm pretty sure our carrier said, so you were in Botswana? And we said, no.
And there we were hunting hemsbuck. I wanted a hemsbuck really bad, and that's where they come from.
Yeah.
It's spectacular up there. It's remarkable. We ate the hemsbuck I ended up shooting. We ate, and I got to tell you guys, it and eland are the two drop dead best tasting.
Pun intended.
Yeah, meat there is out there. But what they eat there, like, I mean, everything. I mean, they're basically browsers up there because there was no grass. It hadn't rained in how many years?
About 3 years, I think
Yeah,
they said, or maybe
3 years.
more.
And so they're living off thorns and stuff like that, and still spectacular meat.
Yeah.
And in great condition. It was an awesome.
And you
hunt.
got a really nice bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge bull.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gemsbuck, yeah.
Yeah. Once again, we shot some just wonderful animals.
Well, everything you shot was really nice.
It
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we did how many? I took
You did three animals
days,
there.
3 days to
3 days.
to shoot it.
Yeah. And then
And then the last day
the
I-
last day we did a little less travel on foot.
Yeah.
We drove to different areas and then just did a little bit of walking up on the dunes. And there is a little different too, because the first place that we went 4 years ago had more traditional looking dunes with not very much vegetation. And
Yeah.
these look more like hills, I
Yeah.
guess, because there is more
Lots of
vegetation on them.
vegetation. Yeah.
But anyway, we traipsed around in there, and you got a diker and also a steenbuck.
Got them both on camera, which was awesome.
Yes.
That's especially dikers, very difficult to get on camera. 'Cause
Mm-hmm.
They're usually they're one of those animals that's it's kind of like a rabbit kind of thing. It's all of a sudden boom, it's there. You shoot it or not, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
never stops moving.
Well, that's
No,
what it
and
means,
we were
right?
very fortunate because we spotted it and then we were able to make a good stock on it, and yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
And then we came back. Oh, this was an impromptu stop though, because
Oh.
we were leaving the Kalahari, and it had taken us quite a bit longer to get there than we had planned, because we did have some tire trouble on one of the vehicles,
Yeah.
and it took us about 13 hours, I think, from where we were at Mandalay to get all the way up to where we were hunting it in the Kalahari. But so Terry said on the way back, would anybody be interested in splitting the trip in half? I'd really like to go and see the big hole. And we all said, we have no idea what you're talking about.
The what? Yeah.
The what? And as it turns out, it was very interesting, because
It was in Kimberley.
it was in Kimberley, and that is where De Beers Diamonds got their start.
Yeah.
So and the history there, and the fact that the big hole is, correct me if I'm wrong, but the largest man dug hole on Earth.
Largest or deepest, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But and it's dug by hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's all.
And it's like 1,000 meters.
I don't know.
it is 1,000 meters deep,
1,000 meters deep. Yeah.
and it's so 1 kilometer deep, and it's got to be 2 kilometers across. Would you say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's remarkable. They also have a tour that you can do. So there's a 20-minute video it starts with. That was really good. That was interesting.
Yeah.
And they did it kind of from the perspective of two people that were
Right.
two fictional people that were supposedly there during the whole discovery and that. It all started with a kid finding
That's right, yeah. Found a rock in a river that he thought was pretty interesting, and it ended up being a huge diamond.
Yeah.
And that's what kicked the man off. Yeah.
Yeah, and his mom or his dad gave it away to a traveling salesman or something. So he said, that rock's really pretty.
Yeah.
Well, you hear you can have it.
Yeah. And through the hands it went until someone said, hey, this is a diamond. And
Yeah.
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 And where did it come from? And then they traced it all the way back. Very interesting, though, because they, when you get out on the lookout to look over into the big hole, they have an area there, and the tour guide tells you that I think it's 30 by 30.
Something like that. Yeah.
And that was the original claim for each individual that came
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
staked a claim there. But they were digging by hand, and lots of those claims they would fall in on each other as
Yeah.
they were digging and whatnot. So it was a very dangerous time. And there were two competing factions, and De Beers was one of them. And then they competed, and then they came to an agreement, and De Beers ended up being the one that won out in the end. But as you finish the tour, they take you through how they grade diamonds, what they look like in the rough, and what the different kinds of cuts are, and
some of the diamonds
and
that have actually been dug there.
replicas of.
Well, replicas, sure. But,
Because
I mean,
one of them is, and I don't remember what it's called, but it sits in Tiffany's in New York City, and it is one of the diamonds that was dug there. And
some of them are like that.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
huge.
and then the diamond or the final gemstone that they cut it down because all diamonds have a certain amount of flaws or color or whatever, and so they want to minimize that in the final the final product. So they cut it to get around all that stuff, and it was very interesting. I enjoyed that. The thing that I enjoyed the most was that originally started it was the Orange River, or a tributary of the Orange River had actually washed out the diamonds. It was washing it out of the top layer, and they were digging by hand to get to that. And then
Yep.
after a while, they hit kimberlite.
right.
Okay, which is what Kimberley is named after, and the kimberlite pipe is a type of quartz. And most people, once it hit that hard stuff, they could no longer mine. And it took a lot more technology in that, and then that's when De Beers started buying everything up because everybody thought it was over.
Right.
And then they actually discovered, the value of kimberlite pipes and how, I think there's 6,000 kimberlite pipes in the world, and 2,000 of them are diamondiferous to a certain extent, and it's pretty cool.
Really cool, anyway. And so then from there, we stayed in Bloemfontein that night.
Yep.
And then we went down to Kirby, and that's where we kind of finished off our hunting. And that's what you got on a neighboring property. Your
Red Hartebeest.
Hartebeest.
You got a blessie and a blesbok
zebra.
and a
Yeah.
zebra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was really, really a fun trip. So that we have 8 animals coming home at some point.
To get back to being a PH, is it unusual your age?
There are quite a few people my age who have their license. Yeah. I don't think it's normal to get it at 18, but there's lots of guys who do have it.
Yeah.
I was one of. There were 2 other guys my age at the course when I was there.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's. I'd say it's. Yeah, pretty normal.
Okay. Best part of being a PH?
You get a hunt every day. I mean, that's
Even
pretty
if you're
fun.
not pulling the trigger
Yeah.
yourself, you get to
Well, I
hunt.
mean, pulling the trigger is such a short amount of time. You know,
Exactly.
you get to do everything else. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Worst part of being a PH?
Well, probably the worst part of hunting, just the cleanup and all that, you know,
Yeah.
doing the animals. And I guess another good part of it is all the people you get to meet. You meet really interesting people from all over the world.
Yeah.
So it's probably doesn't have the most money, but you learn a lot from it, and it's a very valuable job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the biggest oops ever.
You didn't prepare him for any of this. He's looking
Come
at
on.
you like, what?
Well, what,
Mine or someone else's, he
Yeah.
says.
Well, nothing yet too big.
No.
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 Yeah.
He hasn't had time.
Yeah.
He's been here most of the
ask me
time.
again in 5 years. And I'm sure I'll have a good answer.
Yeah, you're too fresh to have had a really proper cock
Really,
up. huh?
really big, a proper mess. Yeah, exactly.
When something is really good, it's proper.
Yeah.
And when things go bad, they say things went pear
It's all
shaped.
gone pear-shaped. Yeah.
Yeah. The bottom's falling right out of it.
Yeah.
But while you've been here, you've actually been doing some skinning.
Yeah.
When your dad said that you were coming over, he said that you wanted to skin some of our North American animals. So I saved a bunch of stuff. I've saved lynx and beaver and otter and that sort of thing. So you've been doing that.
Yeah.
And your thoughts on that?
I enjoy it a lot. I like looking at the finished product. But it's definitely different with the fleshing, you know,
Yeah.
and the stretching and boarding them and that kind of thing. And obviously, we put a lot more care into like the eyes and the lips and that of the animals, and we're not too worried about that here. So it's very different, but the same, you know. So
He likes beaver the best.
I do them really quick. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, part of what you're doing, this is prepping fur just for the auction. It's very different than if we were prepping it for taxidermy. There you have to be.
yeah. It's always for taxidermy. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you're
I've
doing
got-
paws and
Yeah,
ears
I've got
and
a
that kind
couple of
thing,
links
yeah.
that you're going to be doing that way, prepping for taxidermy, and it'll give you a little bit more work to do.
There's always more work
Yeah.
to do there.
The thing you couldn't get over is the fat.
Yeah, our animals just don't have that much fat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
well, our wild game don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, the beaver is just unreal how much fat. It's like
Yeah.
your
You haven't-
apron is dripping with fat. Yeah.
You haven't done an otter yet. Wait.
Yeah. You have a couple of otter in the freezer
Yeah,
yet, don't you?
2 otters to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And any more? And do you have any more whole beavers, or are they all just rough skinned now?
There's
this is what-
one whole one
Yeah.
left, and then it's just fleshing after that.
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but they're nice when they're done, aren't they? You know,
Yeah.
you get them all boarded up.
Boarded up,
And
yeah, they look cool. Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Beaver is one of those animals. I mean, it's what explored and conquered or opened up Canada, and it was the beaver trade, and it was all for hatting
Yes.
and
For the felt.
yes, for making felt, and actually, it's coming back.
Yes.
Yeah. last year at the auction, or back in January, February, in the auctions, the hatting beaver are starting to, and they want, of course, the winter beaver,
Right.
but you're starting to get $30-40 again for.
Oh,
for a beaver.
really?
Yeah, that is nice, and I mean
That is nice because that does make a pelt worth something. But then we've kind of turned people on to a new use for some of the beaver too.
yeah.
Yeah.
We anybody that's watched the show knows that we took and had a bunch of our beaver tanned, plucked, and sheared, and we took it to our friends over at Sisson Furs and Red Deer for to be made into a beaver blanket. Well, we got it back this week.
Yes.
And it is spectacular.
It is a beautiful piece of art, and I think that's the only way you can.
It's an art. It's
explain
a. It's going to be something to hand down for forever.
It's an heirloom.
Yeah, it's an heirloom. So we'll have to make note in the will.
We might have to get the children to draw straws.
Going to be
maybe.
an argument about that. Yeah.
Either that, or we're going to have 2 more made.
Well, it's unbelievable what a beaver pelt turns into.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, you wouldn't think that, when it's on the board, that it could turn into a blanket like that. It's
Yeah.
unreal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
The hair, the pelt looks completely different from when you first skin and board them, right?
Yeah, we didn't have these dyed whatsoever.
No.
Like, and beaver does dye really, really well. Like we could have had them done in different colors and did a checkerboard or whatever. Instead, the furrier took and turned the grain of the fur from one pelt to the next. So then
It looks like
the
a
light,
patchwork.
Yeah,
Yeah,
light
it looks like
there
a
is-
patchwork quilt. And anyone that has ever seen a garment made out of sheared beaver, you'll appreciate it, because the beaver does. I mean, I've seen beautiful reds and purples and greens even of those hides that have been turned into a garment, mostly coats. And they are just, wow, they are spectacular.
Well, it is like crushed velvet.
Yeah,
but
but
it's
very plush.
half inch crushed velvet.
Yeah.
It is just the softest ever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's spectacular for.
Heavy, very heavy.
That's good though. It'll keep you warm.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're going to see some of that on an upcoming show. We're just finishing up our editing. This is week 3 of airing in the U.S.
The U.S. The third episode aired yesterday.
Yep.
On Pursuit Channel in the U.S.
Yep, 6:30 on Eastern Standard Time. 6:30 Saturday
Evening.
evening, afternoon, whatever.
Yeah. So yes.
And we put episode 1 of season 5 up on YouTube and Amazon Prime.
Oh, fantastic! So.
Yeah.
Not very many people are sitting inside unless it's been raining cats and dogs like it has up in our area for the whole month of June and most of July. But
It was
for anyone who has a chance to go and watch those episodes, we will start populating YouTube and Amazon Prime weekly.
not weekly. No,
every couple of weeks.
Don't nail me down. It'll be hit and miss when I have time.
Time is that precious commodity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do with the rain quitting. It was muddy getting in here.
Yeah, well, I've had a fire going for the last couple of days, so I think that's dried the road out.
Oh yeah, it's dried out a ring around the fire. I'll tell you
That's
that
for
much.
sure. Yeah.
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 Well-
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, when you wake up and there's no fire going, Sandy's not up yet.
Oh dear.
That's the first thing that happens is the fire's going and it's hot.
Dear. Oh dear. Gunner's had lots of fun out here this weekend. I think he's pretty tired though. He's starting to say, hey, I need to go home from my bed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
anybody?
I guess we need to clean up, have some lunch, and pack it and go, huh?
Yep, it is that time. Ryan was encouraging me though to call in and play hooky tomorrow so we could stay out another day. He said no one would miss me. I wasn't sure whether to take that as a compliment or not.
You know what you need to do is find out which one of your team is bribing you.
Absolutely. Well, it's been fun. Thanks, Ryan, for being a good sport and fielding all these surprise questions that Richard had for
No
you.
problem. It was fun. Yeah.
And make sure you check out all of our stuff. You can find locations from our website at trappinginc.com. You can get to all of our digital platforms, the Amazon Prime, the YouTube, the podcast. If you're here, you know about it from one direction anyway.
Yeah.
It's been a good time, and maybe we'll see you down the line.